one of the regions. I've seen it banned a few times over in Korea as well, but typically we don't see it too often outside of either Korea or Europe here.
Yeah, we'll get to see Fox playing something different this time as well, because those are the only two champions he's played in the LCS so far. Aurelia also taken off the board. That was something Cabochard played.
SK Gaming really putting some focus on Cabochard here. And as we mentioned in the Unicorns of Love game, Cabochard had a very good performance, even against Rocket on Aurelia. For him, he's a very good top laner, and he's a guy Gambit wants to force a lot of resources on so he can get fed and he can become one of the carries on team. Like, I remember Diamond sitting top lane for like 5 minutes just waiting for Cabochard to make a play here, or keeping him safe. So clearly SK Gaming here looking straight towards his top lane. And then Sejuani.
The Sejuani ban.
Don't want to risk anything, you know, too comfortable playing
here.
Against. Yeah.
I mean, it was a really, really innovative play from Diamond. That was just what everyone, you know, initially expected of him and thought maybe he'd be back to form there. And, you know, a bit disappointing performance in the last week there. So
yeah, not the best start.
Yeah, hopefully he can turn that one around, but they won't give him a chance on the Sejuani. Janna also banned away.
Gnar is open, however, and Rek'Sai.
So is Rek'Sai. We've seen one. Will we see another today? Freddy's thinking about locking it in for Sven.
Kikis completely destroyed Giants earlier today on Rek'Sai, and she was banned the game after open. Now open for Svenskeren. The thing is, the reason Gambit leaves it open here is because they want SK to choose between Gnar and Rek'Sai. So if Rek'Sai gets locked in by SK now, the two top lane bans from them, the Cassiopeia and the Aurelia, suddenly doesn't really matter for Cabochard because he can just fall back on a Gnar, maybe Lissandra if he wants to, in the top lane. But Rek'Sai will be locked in for Svenskeren.
Yep, that leaves the Gnar open as well, but they don't have to take. Well, they want to take it maybe on this rotation because, you know, the Rek'Sai likely going to be in the jungle place. Yeah, but they're thinking about something a little bit different here, hovering now on the Aatrox. I mean, I definitely agree you have to take the Gnar, but maybe Gambit has a trick up their sleeve. This is the team that was once very famous for coming up with some really weird things.
This Aatrox is just making a bit of fun of Freddy, who obviously is a great Aatrox player. One of the few, still playing it from time to time, not seeing it, not expecting to see it today here. Still a lot of power picks open for Gambit again. I feel like you have to take the Gnar, so you don't give this Gnar-Rek'Sai combination to SK Gaming like we saw Unicorns of Love have in the last game, but obviously again the likes of Sivir and Lissandra would also be options for Gambit.
Now see, as this one does count down, they're letting it go to the wire, and there you go, last second switcheroo. There's the Gnar, and there is the LeBlanc.
So we see the same thing here that we saw Rocket do in the last game, where on red side you ban the Kassadin, so you can pick an early LeBlanc here in the first rotation, and you don't have to worry about that counter pick coming in from SK Gaming. And that's again why they feel they can lock it in, take it away from SK. But it's still a bit weird because I haven't really seen LeBlanc have that huge impact compared to a Sivir, compared to again Lissandra, what we've seen in the past, and yet you take it in this first rotation.
Well, and I am a little surprised that they take a mid laner that early in general, and we'll see what SK does decide to take on their side. Plenty of options still left on the board, not a single AD carry was targeted away, so Forgiven and Pinoy will have their pick of the litter. And, well, these are both Graves players. It has been fairly contested. Wouldn't be too surprised to see that picked up.
No, I mean, Forgiven, he's played Graves, he plays Lucian. I've never seen him play a champ like Sivir. He seems to stick to carries himself, where he's the guy who gets all the kills. He's the guy who deals the damage, not Sivir, who's more of a utility-focused AD carry. So for SK, I mean, fair enough for them. You get Rek'Sai, you give Gnar away, and you can take Lissandra for yourself, seeing as he wasn't banned away. So still two very, very strong top lane picks for SK if it does go into top lane.
Technically still a flex pick.
It is still a flex pick, of course.
Freddy has a lot of options at his disposal, and SK does in general right here. Very mobile team composition.
And again, you see Leviathan here, he was just on your screen before, talking all the time. He never stops. He will guide his team here, make sure they think of every single option in this pick and ban phase here and know exactly what they want to pick and how they want to play it.
The man does not rest. And Gambit's really letting their picks go down to the wire here as well, and that's definitely an indicator that there's a lot of coach feedback going on.
A lot of discussion going on. Do you want some disengage against the Lissandra Rek'Sai combination here that can completely destroy your AD carry? Maybe they're looking in towards some late game because you have LeBlanc log in to secure the early to mid game, and she's not that strong going completely late when people itemize against her. Instead though, Gambit really putting a lot of focus on this mid game with the Corki.
Oh yes. Big Eddie gets the Leona lock in, and they will also take the Corki for Pinoy. So bottom lane completed here. All that's left to see is where Diamond ends up going, and you know, all the junglers pretty much fallen through at this point. Rek'Sai, of course, was picked up for Svenskeren, but Diamond has his choice other than Sejuani.
I mean, Jarvan, would be the go-to normally.
Well, there's no need to pick it early since the Rek'Sai
exactly.
went already, so they
point,
can leave that on the table.
Exactly, that's why they didn't actually go for the Jarvan earlier with the Rek'Sai already being locked in. And what Gambit is doing here is instead of saying, we're going to wait for you to engage on us with Lissandra Rek'Sai, we're going to take Leona ourselves and have a very, very strong mid-game through LeBlanc and the Corki, and we're going to force fights on you, because if you manage to lock down that Lissandra so she can't dive your backline, suddenly she just have to ulti herself, and she won't be as useful as we normally see when she gets the flank around on your AD carry.
Yeah, over on the side of SK, completing the lineup, rounding it out with a Zed pick, as well as a support Lulu. Very, very flexible, talking about how many places that Lulu can go, but there's really only one left, so that'll be nRated's pickup for now. And Gambit thinking about, I would really be surprised with Jarvan in the rotation for this to go through. It's kind of the obvious choice. A lot of in-out as opposed to just one direction. Yeah,
so if they do decide to log in Vi, this is simply to target out Forgiven in these team fights here. Go straight for the AD carry, Leona and Vi, to stun him, and then LeBlanc and Gnar jumping in towards him, try and kill him, because Forgiven is a guy who demands a lot of respect. He is the guy who wants to carry these team fights. You know he can play aggressive, so having a Vi with this point-and-click ulti onto him could be an option, but...
There's the switch.
Yeah. Again, picking him into, like, again, the likes of a Lulu makes it very hard for Vi actually to really lock down his target and then kill them in time through the wild growth. So I like Jarvan more for Gambit.
Yeah, it works a lot better just in most of these team compositions. It's one of the reasons Jarvan has just been pretty much a must-pick in a lot of situations, unless, of course, a Rek'Sai is left up. That's the second time is available, and it, of course, was picked up pretty quickly by SK. But with the comps rounded out, both the coaches, you can see them, really no emotion conveyed there. Not a lot to read in the way they're thinking.
Except for Leviathan talking a lot more than
it's true. One of them is definitely making a little bit more noise than the other.
But what SK Gaming decided to do here, they still have a very, very strong team fight come from their side, again, as we see close to every single game here in Europe. But the Zed is being picked into LeBlanc because this is actually a matchup Zed has the edge in, and also it will force LeBlanc often, if Zed gets an edge, to actually build an early arm guard here, delay her own early power spike a little bit, force into some defensive items, and then you can control her better. And also the Zed will be a pick that can outscale Gnar in terms of a split push. So if we do get a situation where SK Gaming gets far ahead, they're going to use Freddy and, of course, the Zed pickup in this 1-3-1, the Lissandra and the Zed, to split push away.
Yeah, I think that looking across the board at the way these two comps are set up, there's definitely a lot of potential for SK to chase down the kills, beat them down very early. Gambit had such a rough time in their Unicorns game to deal with that kind of aggression. They have to adapt here, but hey, we've seen the picks and bans, and we want to know what you have to say. Go ahead and tweet us at LL Esports using the hashtag SKWin or GMBWin, and we'll check out the results in the game. But with that all said and done, looks like we're about to load up into this one. Who do you want to throw any predictions out there?
I prefer not, but
no, okay.
I really do like, again, the comp from SK Gaming here, and I want to see if Gambit then can use their mid-game spike and their aggressive engage to actually shut down SK.
We'll see if they're able to pull that one off. Coming out on the Rift here, Svenskeren rocking a turn on Rek'Sai as they all load up. Right? Yeah, that's a pretty good skin too.
Welcome to
they make their way towards the middle, but safe start around. They're all fanning out and pretty much looking to take a pretty typical line of scrimmage position, but Diamond might run into Svenskeren, throws the flag down.
Yeah, I would expect to see Gambit look for a lane swap. Corki Leona into a Graves Lulu is not exactly the easiest lane to play. One of the reasons Lulu has become a thing for nRated is because she's so strong in like the first few levels in terms of her poke, her damage she can do. Combine that with Graves, the best, again, 1-2 AD carry, and you can just fast push the lane and force bad trades for the enemy dual lane here. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Gambit lane swap, which is also the reason for them moving into the jungle here of SK Gaming, placing these deep wards between the two turrets in the top side to spot if SK is recalling with their bottom lane and sending them top.
Speaking of recalling, Eddie finds himself pretty far out there as he places the deep ward to see if they can grab the vision. General direction pinged out, but I don't think they caught the ward on the side of SK.
So this tactic has been used so often that you know when they're going for this late or this invade into your jungle, you will always expect there to be a ward placed between these two towers. We just see the ward here,
so they avoid
it. And decides to walk around it, so they actually didn't see him, I believe.
He's going to run to the one by Grump.
And they do see him now. So they know Svenskeren is starting on the top side. Haven't spotted anything in terms of the dual lanes, but as soon as they see Freddy cast a spell on the Grump, they know Graves and Lulu will be on the bot side.
Yeah, already Gambit seeming a little more map conscientious. SK starting a little bit more typical here. Freddy going to help out Svenskeren with the Grump before he moves up to the lane, but he will be met by Big Eddie's Leona.
Yes, everyone knows now it's going to be the lane swaps. for Gambit. I really think this is the best decision for them. Again, Gnar as well is very good at farming in a 1v2. Same goes for Lissandra. However, so it's going to be a bit of a farm fest between the two top laners whenever they are allowed to get close. And obviously, again, we see with this XP change, there was a few patches ago where now you can actually stand further away from the minions to get your experience. Freddy just walks straight to lane and sits there ready to pick up some XP.
Yeah, there we go. Nick and Fox just going to trade a little bit out. It's pretty hard to really do any serious damage early on with those assassins. Gotta wait till the power spike, but Freddy is going to have some trouble dealing with this duo lane just because there's so much zone potential here, and Lissandra can't really farm safely against it.
Well, the thing is, at least you can stay close enough to the minions to get the experience and sometimes get a last hit on it. And what can happen is Lulu just recalls from the bottom side and runs up and helps him, and you will have a 2v2 lane with double range, which shouldn't have any trouble actually farming. However, what SK did last week was actually keeping Lulu together with Graves, or that time with Lucian, and you would fast push the lane swap here, take down this tower, and then swap to the other lane and defend it in time before the other team could do it. And my team trying to go for it again.
It's an interesting item choice for Svenskeren too. He picks up the Ranger's Trailblazer really, really early. I haven't really seen that so much unless you get a little bit behind in the jungle. You really want quick clear.
Oh, so the thing is, again, after the change in 5.1 where you get 30 gold now, when you upgrade your Hunter's Machete, we do see a lot of junglers do this, like 3 camps, go back to base, pick up a whatever Trailblazer Stalker's Blade, and then go back to farming so you get that extra gold income. And what we saw Kikis do, and what I expect Svenskeren to do as well, is you have the Trailblazer first now, for just the first few clears, and then you go back, and before you enchant it, you swap it over to the Stalker's Blade, so you have that Chilling Smite, which is so important for you when you go for these ganks, because you gotta land that knock-up, and you gotta get in melee range.
True, and you only really give up the potential to more effectively gank for the duration of having Trailblazer too, so it's a nice change of a strategy. Looks like Diamond has adopted it as well.
Yeah, he did the same actually last week as well, and then he swapped the Skirmisher's Saber on the Jarvan instead of going for the Stalker's Blade. So we're going to see if he will do the same this time around. We'll get
was a bit of an odd
80
choice.
Goals.
He did play Jarvan once last week. Now Svenskeren, double buffs. Finds Diamond on the pink, and he's going to jump on him. Level advantage right now, but he'll flag and drag away to safety.
Yeah, nice decision by Diamond here, just getting out of there. Don't want to take the trade. If you don't manage to land your EQ combo onto your target as Jarvan, you won't really stand much of a chance in a one-on-one, especially not against a Rek'Sai, who is so strong with early damage.
Rek'Sai has an insane amount of damage. This is one of the reasons it's been just so frequently banned all over the place, and instantly able to get right back to clearing out the camps. Nick, a little bit low in this mid lane against Fox, but he jumps in on him here. Wait a minute, we might have something. Level advantage for Fox. He's going to be able to pop the Mimic. Does he have the damage? No! Tiniest of health bars, and Nick gets out.
I think he missed his cue there, Shuriken, when he actually flashed behind Nick there.
Classic misdirection.
Very, very, very close. But again, the Zed LeBlanc matchup here is a bit hard for LeBlanc to do anything against the Zed, and we'll have most likely have to itemize a bit of armor in terms of an arm guard early on. And Svenskeren able to spot Eddie here in his own jungle. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see Rek'Sai actually just sit and farm to level 6. And place, again, the defensive tunnels. You have one in the top lane, one in the mid lane, one in the bottom lane. So once you have your ulti, you can just quickly go to whatever lane action is happening in or whatever lane you want to gank. And again, Svenskeren, he's just finding Eddie here. Constantly see the circles under him, knowing, okay, he's standing in that bush right now, waiting.
Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, nRated and Forgiven, been able to bully out Cabochard quite effectively. Should be able to clear this tower, just denying a few more minions before they do. Be able to pick that first one up. Exactly
the same play as last week for SK when they had the Lulu in the lane swap. You fast push the wave here, and you just focus on taking down the tower. You don't really want to deny any experience from the enemy top laner. You just want a tower, and then you want to go to the top lane, defend it so Corki can't push it down. Might not even have to do it in this game because it's just been a one-on-one for such a long time. Eddie has been trying to roam, but he was spotted by Svenskeren beforehand, so he actually gained nothing from it, and tower is down.
This is really going to set back Cabochard quite a bit here. If Forgiven doesn't leave him alone, he's down pretty low, and you take a look, there are the votes right now. 61% of you saying SK Gaming are going to win, and it's certainly looking their advantage early game.
Yeah, Gambit has been misplaying this lane swap here. There's been no pressure on Freddy, so he's actually a level ahead of Pinoy because he's just been sitting in a one-on-one. He's getting 40 CS when he lasts the last one here as well, so barely been denied anything on this top lane, Lissandra, and at the same time, there was no help for Gnar in the bottom lane either, so they lost the tower, and obviously Cabochard fell behind in CS. Just no response from Eddie or Gambit as a team here to try and stop SK from doing whatever they want to in this lane swap.
Still trying to trade a little bit. Fox just looks for an opening that he can find Nick, but he was so close to getting that pick last time. Has a summoner spell burn. Now here we go. Freddy in a little bit of trouble, going to Ice Claw his way to relative safety, but he has to flash. And Edward does not connect on his E.
Yeah, Svenskeren was actually pinging. He was on the way to the top lane, but because Freddy had no mana, he wouldn't be able to ulti himself and buy time, and therefore decided to flash away, playing it safe. Couldn't actually see if Diamond had joined in either, as there's 0 wards on the top side here from SK Gaming. Oh, actually got his level 6 now. We do see some batons placed around here. We'll be able to move around very good. So
much mobility in his own jungle. He's even got one around the side of the Dragon Pit from when he wanted to jump onto Diamond earlier. So if they start focusing on that particular objective. SK, you mentioned in the pregame, had just a ridiculous amount of Dragon and Baron control. The only Dragon they gave up barely had any contested. The only one they gave up was to get a Baron anyways. And they definitely have been able to do that with a serious lack of vision in a lot of these games too. Now Fox in a little bit of trouble himself, half health, but he's under tower, and Nick is not going to go any further.
And now SK have swapped Forgiven and Lulu, and nRated, of course, to the top lane, as we talked about after you kill the bottom lane. You walk straight to the top lane, you start putting pressure on the next tower, and you just fast push down these outer turrets here, giving you a massive global lead. You don't care about getting a dragon, even though the enemy bottom lane was on the top side. No, you want to go up there, you want to get a tower. And funny enough, also like last week, Pinoy, he's taking the enemy red buff. He did like 5 times against Rocket.
Got to find some way to get back into this one. He's been down about 10, a little bit more CS now, but not too bad considering he really hasn't been laning up against Forgiven either.
Yeah, I actually don't think it's very good for him
to
take it.
Cabochard. Wait a minute.
So I actually don't think it's very good for Pinoy to take it because he's just returned from base. He's sitting on like 500 gold. He's not going to recall again because he used all his mana on taking the red buff. So he recalls, barely gains anything except for mana crystal and of course a red buff, but he's not standing in a 2v2 anyway. So I'm not even sure it's worth it for him to actually lose out on quite a lot of farm while he's doing that red buff.
Yeah, maybe if they were about to fight, but they don't really seem too interested right now. Very spread across the board, Gambit, as SK picks up the Scuttle Crab, goes right back to clearing some. Svenskeren gonna realize his red is gone, but that's okay. He's got plenty of jungle still to go. Now Forgiven and nRated back up in the top lane. But this is Edward and Cabochard they're meeting here. A little bit of damage, some poke on Edward after the polymorph comes in. Forgiven, he waits around the backside just for the right moment to strike, and then just the burst from his buckshot and the threat of collateral damage is just so ridiculous. This is what's got him so far ahead.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons Leona isn't considered very good in the lane swap, because she's a melee champion. She can only go all in here, and she's not able to help Cabochard pick up a lot of farm and obviously get poked every time she moves forward. We see Eddie being very, very low here. Sven actually decided not to go Stalker's Blade on Rek'Sai like Kikis did in the last game. So the Trailblazer and just fast farming.
Ooh, Eddie a little bit low, and Cabochard gets the Mega Gnar, but they're going to have to give this tower up. SK grab themselves a bottom and a top within several minutes of each other, and actually dangerous back position too, but they're not interested in checking it too far out.
And as soon as you get this top tower here and you know Gambit is recalling, you see Svenskeren just walk into the jungle of Gambit here, knowing you have a lot of backup from the top side, from the mid lane as well. I can just do whatever I want here. Didn't have any... Oh, there's actually one ward placed on the way.
You don't need too many wards.
No,
you've got Svenskeren all over the map.
Perfectly fine.
All of SK too. They slow push in and start to grab little annexes of the map.
I would have liked to see him place a pink ward in the top side of the jungle, just behind the red buff, which is a bush people normally don't check, and we've seen it beforehand. Oh. That's basically it.
Fox, he's in a little bit of trouble, has to burn his flash, and here we go, turn it around, Deathmark onto Nick, immediately backs out, Zenith Blade in, first blood to Edward, and it was 11 minutes in the coming, and they get 2 as Pinoy picks up Svenskeren.
So after all this fast pushing here from SK, Gambit's like, you know what, we're done with this, let's just get some fights here. Diamond goes in, they get the kill obviously first onto the Z, and then the Rek'Sai as well going down. Svenskeren trying to come in and help.
Freddy chases Gambit off the dragon, so they won't have a chance to capitalize on that one. But yeah, very quick first blood and second kill picked up by Gambit there. They will get a little bit more gold back in their pockets, but they have to be careful. Last outer turret now being focused down by Forgiven and nRated.
Yeah, and again, your only safe wave play is going to be the Corki Pinoy here. Again, allowing SK to just always get some damage on the towers whenever Pinoy is not nearby.
You brought up a good point there. They really don't have much anti-siege, so as long as SK plays the safe kiting game for now, they're going to be able to shove in these waves pretty quickly.
Yeah, so it's only going to be a problem here in the early game, because it's not like SK Gaming is running a siege comp themselves. You don't really want to use Z to siege a tower. You want to use it for the split pushing instead, but in this case, because early game has been in favor of SK, the lane swap, and now Dragon obviously as well going over to them. No real threat from Gambit or any chance.
No vision for them either.
Doing anything.
They didn't really have an opportunity to get in there and get the positioning they wanted. So first Dragon again goes to SK. They continue their impressive run of Dragon pickups.
I actually think if you go all the way back to lane swap, Gambit, knowing that SK will fast push it, you have Leona as well. You should have gone for at least try and pressure out Freddy in the 1v2 and send up the jungle as well. Maybe go for a dive. Let's see, Eddie.
Yep, they find nRated. Whoa, there's the Leona ultimate. That's going to be nRated getting his wild growth out as well to disengage. And Eddie backs off that one, but it was a close call for the SK support.
Almost managed to burst him down before he could pop his wild growth here as soon as he was out of the CC. Staying alive. No flash actually used. Just his ulti being popped from nRated here. Keeping it very cool.
Svenskeren gonna give this blue buff over to Fox, of course. Good guy jungler, as usual. He gets back to lane. Yeah, decent lead in the gold as well for SK picked up. They're about 2,000, a little bit less than that ahead of their opponents. But Gambit have not been sitting completely idle here. They just don't seem to be quite together enough to get more than a few picks.
The thing is, they didn't have the same fast push strategy available with Leona compared to Lulu when it comes to pushing down the towers, and because they didn't apply any pressure on Freddy, try and dive him, maybe at least force him away, deny him the CS, it simply meant that Freddy has had a great lane swap. He's far ahead compared to Cabochard in terms of farm and even XP he should be, and at the same time, Forgiven just been racking up the global gold for his team, able to just move around first the bottom lane, then the top lane. There's just been no response from Gambit except for those 2 kills in the mid lane, which came later after those 2 towers went down. It's actually the same lane swap from SK as we saw last week, so now teams should know moving forward, this is how they play with Lulu in these lane swaps here.
Yeah, it's definitely going to give them a little bit more sustain when these fights do start to break out as well. And speaking of fights, Diamond, he's gone once again for the Skirmisher Saber. So as you mentioned, he did sell back, he goes for that one.
Yeah.
Hopefully it works a little bit better for him this time, because in those last games, especially against Rocket, he would just jump in and pretty much get blown up. Yeah,
it's pretty strong though for the late game, especially when you play against an AD carry like Forgiven, who you know is going to be one of the carries. Just having that smite on him so he does 20% less damage on you can be very, very good for Diamond. But let's see, he's on the Freddy.
Freddy is going to take the Glacial Path away, and also burning that flash to secure his escape, but Gambit get a Summoner Spell back away now. SK going to pick up another quick Scuttle Crab for themselves. Still a while till that Dragon will be available though.
Freddy does have teleport ready if he wants to defend his top lane. He's going to teleport there right now. So again, SK Gaming, they don't use the teleports to make the rotations. They don't use the wards to do it. No, they just time again. Okay, is there a buff about to spawn? Blue buff is about to spawn. Okay, so Freddy, you walk down from the top lane to mid lane. It's already fairly low. You push it up so we can see everything happening there. And we have 5 guys around this blue buff. But then we walk straight into the blue buff here. Brute force our way. We take it while you take the mid lane. And then you just teleport top lane when Cabochard is like, hey, I built up a massive wave. Maybe I can trade it for, maybe I can trade mid tower for top tower. Nope, teleport coming in from Freddy, defends it, and again denies gold from Gambit. They just play the map so well.
Yeah, SK's not just map sense, but their objective sense has been extremely good in the opening week and continuing on now in the LCS. So here we go, Edward going to be roaming up to the top, spotted by the pink ward though. This should give Freddy enough time to Glacial Path his way up. But wait a minute, there's the Solar Flares a little bit slowed down, going to juke out the Zenith Blade. And again, Eddie just seems to have a heat-seeking missile lock on him most of the time.
Well, Eddie's just trying to create some plays here on the Leona, but every time he tries again and going for someone like Freddy, you see Svenskeren, you see nRated, they're moving towards the top side here. So if Freddy just buys some time, rest of SK can move in time and turn it around for them here. But actually a very important slow landed by Freddy onto Eddie here, so he couldn't get onto him.
Yeah, not enough combo damage there for Nick onto nRated too. You can see Gambit just trying to look for picks to where they can, you know, snowball into an objective or take something off of that. But SK, they're playing too safe for this. Nobody that's squishy enough is really getting caught out of position, and this is Gambit's issue. They can't play a pick comp if they're not getting a chance to get picks.
This is a very, very early Ghost Blade on a Zed. Normally you always see Blade of the Ruined King being completed first, and you add in like a Brutalizer on the way, but he's actually gone for a Brutalizer and then upgraded to Ghost Blade. I think actually it might be just to have more presence in a potential team fight if he gets onto the likes of Pinoy. And now Edward.
They found Edward there, and there's a lot of damage versus him. Deathmark goes in. Fox says, I want that kill, and he should be able to get it. Yes, he does now. Teleport coming in for Cabochard, and SK in full retreat. Fox barely making it out alive, not going to even mess around. He takes the flash over the wall, and nRated, though, is still a little bit far behind. They might be able to catch him. Forgiven is here. Can he push them away? Wait a minute, that's a lot of damage gonna force everybody back from Gambit, but Cabochard sticks around too long, and nRated takes him down.
And Freddy wasn't even there, like he's running from the mid lane right now, but this Lulu support pick for nRated as well. Every time there's a fight, he managed to land the slow and just kite around, and in the end here they could turn it around, pick up 2 kills for SK. They started the whole thing, they ended up being chased by 5 guys from Gambit, and they still turn it around, get the 2 kills, now pushing up towards the tower here.
This is Gambit being a little bit greedy on that. They tried to answer back with some kills, but they pushed it so hard. And Cabochard just not on the same page with the team. When you see your jungler flashing backwards, you don't go in again.
No, that's very true, but for Gambit, I mean, they just want to try and make some plays. They know they're losing on global gold. They know, again, the combo from SK Gaming will be harder and harder for them to deal with. Remember, Gambit is running with a very strong mid game through Corki and LeBlanc here. So they really want to try and use it to create some picks, but every time they try, SK managed to disengage away from them and take something else. I mean, Dragon spawning now. Cabochard is sitting top lane with no teleport, so he wants to try and trade it for the tower up here. And the rest of Gambit then should be very careful and not actually walk down here if they're only 4 guys, not 5, of course.
Yeah, Edward's going to go ahead and try to get a little bit of vision on this one, but they see everything. Svenskeren on that Rek'Sai, able to sense the movement in the ground. And the Dragon now being started up. They have the Scuttle Crab Shrine. It's going down pretty quickly, and Gambit not even going to try to contest it, as you mentioned. Freddy's going to teleport up to the top. They're going to try to have their cake and eat it too.
Exactly the same play, though, by Freddy. He's not going to go top lane and teleport to the Dragon. Now he goes down to the Dragon, saves the teleport for when the wave has been built up on the top side, teleports back, and he clears everything. Brilliant
move by SK and Freddy in particular, and yeah, it saves them just about everything. 3 towers to none now is the scoreline. It's not even 20 minutes into the game, and nRated, though, he could be in a little bit of trouble. Pinoy and Edward had some eyes on him, but they won't be able to chase him down. Just in case, Svenskeren's hanging in the back.
I'm trying to set up again. The tower is still here, so Gambit don't really want to just dive 2v2. You see nRated trying to bait it here. He wants Eddie to go onto him here, or engage onto him.
You just see the little shark fin.
And Eddie's like, yeah, you know, I'm not buying it. I mean, if the enemy support suddenly randomly walks toward you, you often do think, okay, he's not alone.
Now, they are going to double down and trying to take this top one, but Diamond's actually not pushing the wave. He's trying to bait out Freddy. Still, ganking has not quite worked out too well for him, and there you go. There's the Rek'Sai. Well, they know she may or may not be around, but she is.
She is. Will he tunnel over here? Svenskeren is staying. He's waiting for the play from Gambit. They want to try and dive Freddy. Remember, he has his ult he can use on himself.
So who's going to start to gank off? They don't have Diamond making a move just yet. Very tense moment, but I think Svenskeren sensing that something was up.
I really do like their sidestone here for Diamond. It makes him a little bit weaker himself, a little bit more squishy. But the way to play against SK Gaming is you need to have so many wards down on the map, and then you need to punish them for not buying wards and simply pick them off when they're trying to move between the lanes here. So I actually quite like double sidestone for Gambit, as long as they can now use it and like really start warding up the river and the entrance to the jungle of SK, so they can see if they do move between the lanes at least and try and get a pick with Nick, with of course Eddie, who's tried so many times, but he's been spotted every time.
Yeah, as you mentioned, it's definitely a great idea in theory, but Gambit is just not living up to it in practice. So they need to step up the way that they're trying to get these picks. It is the mid game, it will be for a little while, but Gambit has to find something soon, and when every minute they don't, it's got to be discouraging.
Yeah, especially because, again, SK is sitting on 2 dragons now to 0 from Gambit, so you already got to start worrying about that one. Remember, SK won last week by getting 5 dragons to 0, and just walked straight down and finished the game actually as they picked up the 5th dragon. Once again, though, Gambit putting focus on this top lane. They want to really get a piece of Freddy.
Yeah, Diamond, though, spent a lot more time hanging in brushes than really doing much of anything. So they're actually going to ping across the board now, looking for Svenskeren, and nRated are going to back away. There's actually quite a collapse around the Baron side. I don't really think anybody would be attempting to do that quite so early. Gambit just hanging around, looking for something.
Yeah,
and that would be nRated. He gets the wild growth out. Nick is going to back away as he gets polymorphed. nRated very, very low. He forces the ultimate.
And again, this Lulu pick against the single target damage from LeBlanc just working out for him. He managed to disengage, didn't have to blow his flash again from nRated here, and also building very early Athenes, which is going to be good for him. and obviously again to counter the Leona engage coming in on to someone like Forgiven.
Yeah, Nick now going to try to look for Svenskeren, dodges the chains, takes his tunnel system out of harm's way now. Gambit is still massing up to try and find anyone, someone, something. They can't even quite grab a tower, although that's not for lack of trying, especially in that top side. It's just all of the ways are covered right now by SK. Their map presence is superb.
Yeah, but right here, so you just force the enemy support to go back to base, and you have 5 guys alive. You have a teleport ready as well. And that's where you gotta move into SK Gaming's jungle, and you place a few depots from your 2 side stones.
And you can clear out the Rek'Sai tunnels as well.
Yeah, suddenly again you have more information to play around and a higher chance of you creating a pick. But they didn't. They actually just decided to ward up around the dragon in the river and then just back away. So it's also Gambit now playing it very passive and being a bit afraid of SK Game and not just using the few openings SK will give them from time to time.
How much do you think that is really the respect for this team? Because not just starting 2-0, but being a Worlds contender last year, being a team that is typically in that top 3 here in Europe, and how much does that factor in mentally, do you think, for Gambit?
I don't think Gambit actually thinks about it too much, like in the game itself. Once you're playing here, you have your tactic. You don't actually care who you're playing against. Beforehand, you will say, okay, we know Forgiven, he will be very aggressive, so we're going to try and punish him for that, but you don't necessarily sit and say, oh, SK Gaming, I'm really afraid of them because they're a great team. No, once you're in the game, you focus on that one and just stick to your tactics.
So far, those tactics have only netted them 2 kills. Need some towers still. They're falling behind in the gold game. About 5,000 down to SK Gaming. Dragon is coming up in another minute. We might see this Farm Fest kind of turned into a little bit of a bloodbath if everyone starts moving that way.
And Pinoy here, second item for him. Quicksilver Sash against obviously a Zed. You can claim Salty.
Good reason for that.
The Lissandra going in as well, so he knows he's going to be the target for SK Gaming in these fights here. And getting a very early QSS. Well, again, he will sacrifice quite a lot of damage on it. But if he's going to die anyway in the first few seconds of the fight, well, in that case, the QSS will be better for him. So he actually stays alive. Yeah,
he's still a little bit behind Forgiven in the gold department. But, you know, he was our GPM king last week. This guy just way good here. And here we go. Diamond going to get the jump on his Svenskeren with Edward, but there's a teleport coming in. And it looks like the fight's going to go to the backline. Pinoy a little bit low, but they can't quite get him. Svenskeren will pick off Diamond. So that is a 1 for none so far. But it's not over yet. Cabochard going to get a big Gnar back onto the members of SK. Edward, though, going down to Freddy. And it looks like they're very low, but they might have just enough damage. Pinoy staying alive. Everybody blinking health bars. It ends up being a 1 for 2. As Svenskeren finally goes down, and Forgiven picks up Nick in an explosion, and they'll start this dragon off. Would be number 3 for them, and it looks like it'll be uncontested.
And going straight forward, 3 for 1 here for SK Gaming. It was actually Gambit with the engage, but everyone was around here. And just a very controlled fight once again for them. nRated on this Lulu and Freddy on Lissandra with all the crowd control, all the slows coming down. Just managed to keep Gambit at bay. Let's see it again. Onto Svenskeren first. They're trying to set up a bait here where they wanted to clear a ward in the bush. Go for him. Pinoy gets jumped instantly on top of your screen here. Pops the QSS. Zed is out of the fight, but at this point, Gambit doesn't have enough damage because Pinoy is forced to stay so far back here. He can never really get to auto-attack anything, just trying to land rockets. And Nick finally finds a flank, but that's a bit too late. And now SK Gaming just been able to stay back with their carries and deal damage all the time. I mean, Forgiven, he's constantly just auto-attacking, while Pinoy just have to try and land rockets. Ooh. And obviously the last one here, just predicting to jump in.
Speaking of jump in now, Fox. Looks like the action really just decided to turn up. Fox is already about half health, but still they can't pick him. And this has been the story of Gambit. Not just the target prioritization in that last fight, which was all over the place for both teams, but not being able to 100 to 0 a single target. Sometimes it's because of who they're picking, going on to Lulu, opportunity, going on to Svenskeren, maybe not quite enough, but they just don't quite. Ooh, there was a Rek'Sai going across the table. That was a very quick champion, and they're going to be looking for Nick.
Spotting Nick here.
Yeah, I mean, but it's just Gambit's issue. They can't assassinate anyone with their assassins.
See what happens here. There's no TP for Freddy, so it's actually only 4 guys from SK on this bottom side here. Oh, Cabochard.
Yeah, he's joined the fray now, nRated though. Around the side, Svenskeren going to get the jump on. Cabochard is down. Forgiven picking that one up. Deathmarks on to Eddie. Diamond has locked nRated in the cage, and he takes him down. It is a 1 for 1 top laner for support, but here comes Freddy. 1-2-2. Can they lock up Diamond? They're certainly going to try. There's the knock up, and they use the Frozen Tomb to put him 6 feet under.
Once again, 2 kills for SK, winning the fights here. Gambit actually had 5 guys on the bottom side, and yet Cabochard was caught out, died. This is 1v2. And now SK pushing up towards this bottom lane.
should be able to take out this tower quite easily. Decent bit of a minion wave at their backs. 4-1 in towers right now, and they still have those 3 dragons, so the movement speed coming into play here over Gambit, who just are not having enough in the tank when they start these fights.
No, and whenever they did have an opening, they didn't actually take it and just allowed SK to sit back and decide whenever or when they want to fight. It's always been in favor of SK in this game here. DFG for Nick is not gone yet. He in 5.1. Of course, died out in 5.2, so thank you DFG and rest in peace.
Well, Nick's still hoping to get a little bit more utility out of that item right now, but he's going to have to start stepping it up here. 0-1 with 3 assists here, and there we go. nRated gets slowed up for just a moment, but they really didn't have any follow-through on there, and a bit of a questionable decision by Edward.
Well, again, the thing is, if nRated is left alone there, they can pop him instantly through CC of Leona and obviously the burst from Nick with the DFG, but they don't have any information on how many guys from SK is nearby, so they just have to back away. As soon as they see one, think, okay, the rest of the team is probably here, and they step away from it.
They are going to jump on nRated. Yeah, Diamond, he's frontlining as they take down the tower. They do get a little bit back. Edward goes very low from the collateral damage, nearly popped by Svenskeren. Can he get the damage? Waiting for that cooldown to complete. Freddy around the side, not quite enough, but Freddy, blood in his eyes looking for it. He gets pushed off by Nick, and Edward is going to get away just barely.
Just barely here, managed to get up his W in there and get some more armor. SK Gaming, though, straight for this Baron here. They're not waiting around. Yeah,
moving forward, actually starting it off. And Fox is actually going to jump onto Diamond. Deathmark forcing the flag and drag away. Pinoy and Cabochard were there for the defense, but Fox is just going to shadow step his way back into the pit. And Cabochard going to try to stop this one. Diamond, it's going to be a smite fight. Who's going to take it down? He's going to wait a minute, Diamond, he's already locked up, and he goes in way too late. The Baron goes over to SK Gaming, and they also managed to pick up Nick, and Diamond is wondering what the hell just happened.
Yeah. Nice little move by Freddy, seizing Diamond, trying to kill him obviously so he couldn't get in for the smite. But SK Gaming pick up the Baron once again. They turn around and fight, get a kill straight for his mid lane as well.
And I'm really concerned. Ooh, can't even talk about that because Edward gets blown up. Fox gets the kill. They take the turret. Big Gnar to force everybody back, but there just isn't any damage. Pinoy taking pot shots, but he's not faring very well against Forgiven, and he has to Valk his way out of danger. And now Diamond, though, looking for Forgiven, smites him down, but Svenskeren is still there. You can't keep off the Rek'Sai, and they're able to peel him away.
Yeah, Forgiven really using this mid-game on Graves with Ghostblade and Vintage so well. He's really strong in these fights. Pinoy trying for a play, or maybe steal a Raptor.
That QSS has really not helped his damage output very much right now. As you mentioned, it looked like it was going to set him back. Let's take a look, though, again at that Baron play.
Right, so basically look towards Diamond here. He wants to go for the steal, and Freddy's just going to claw Doom over the wall, try and kill him here. He CC'd for enough time for the Baron to die, so it is a great play, and obviously Diamond couldn't go in. Another kill also for SK. So about the QSS on Pinoy, it's such a hard situation for him because there's so many things that can kill him in these fights here. Zed can jump you, Lissandra can jump you. So if you don't have a QSS to defend yourself, you're just gonna die if you move towards anything and you wanna like auto attack. However, it does make you lose so much damage in the mid game where you're supposed to be the strongest.
It's not really become a priority target anymore, that's the thing.
Well, he's just zoned away. There's so much zone control from SK with, again, Lissandra, Zed, obviously, even the Lulu.
Yeah, now SK starting to run amok through the Gambit jungle. On that bottom side, they're just placing wards out all over the place. So quite a lot more ward placements, I think, than we're used to seeing from them. But they'll be able to grab what they can from the bottom side. 6 seconds on this Dragon. Should be no sweat at all to take this one again. And this would be Drake number 4, starting to get to that danger zone for Gambit Gaming, and they're not reacting to it at all.
Exactly like last week for SK, sitting on 4-0 Dragons now.
And a Baron.
And a Baron, obviously. Can now keep pushing in, you know, keep looking for towers, team fights, and yet if they don't find anything, it doesn't matter because you're just waiting 6 minutes for the next Dragon to spawn anyway. And if Gambit doesn't fight for it, you get it for free and you're now completely buffed up on steroids and you can just go all in.
They're certainly going to start this siege right on up. Big minions there. Nick waiting around the side, but Svenskeren is covering the way, sending out the Prey Seekers just to ward off any other members of Gambit. It's actually looking like SK is going to walk back. Maybe they're fainting for this one. Pinoy wants to check out and clear a few wards, so they'll give it to him.
So the reason SK backs away here is because mid lane isn't pushing for them and the top lane had to be set up by Freddy as well. So you had no pressure in the other lanes and Gambit could just put 5 guys in the bottom lane defending. Now SK decides to back in, push up both mid lane and the top lane for them and instantly into the enemy jungle here. You know Freddy's nearby, so you are 5 players. Get down a few deep wards normally if you had it.
Yeah, Svenskeren, not a lot of kills in this game on Rek'Sai. The last Rek'Sai performance was definitely very much the opposite, but he's been extremely heavy on the utility for his team here. And
100% kill participation.
Full tank, yeah, he's got a hand in every one of those kills. He has one of them himself. They're able to just take down these turrets so quickly. They don't even need Fox to split push because they can just muscle their way in.
And he's giving so much information to his team by just spotting where Gambit is going. Every time he's on the ground and he sees them nearby, you can see the small circles and you know, okay, Gambit want to try and flank us, or at least one guy is roaming here. He actually stopped Eddie from getting a gank in the mid lane. Way back in the early game when we had the lane swap, because he just followed him through down the river. And obviously, nothing happened.
Now, Diamond and Nick are waiting around to see if anyone's going to check into this one, but I just don't think they've gotten the dragon timers quite right here. They're going to try and clear some wards away, but Fox is there.
They're hoping to set up a pick. That's why Nick is just sitting in random bushes around here, hoping for someone to face check him so he can blow them up. We might actually see the first loss for the Jarvan Gnar combo.
Oh, yeah.
Which Gambit actually does have on their side. Just not been able to use it, and none of them has been tanky enough because they fell so far behind in global gold early to really set up any fights and Gambit just, they've been playing too passive. I mean, they've tried to get a few kills here and there, but they haven't like used deep wards to trap SK Gaming or gone all in for a certain place. It was just like, okay, try and land an ulti from Eddie. Ah, it missed. Okay, let's back away. Let's wait for the next thing to happen.
Speaking of records that might be broken, well, one of them still standing strong right now. 3-0-5 is forgiven, and he's actually deathless in the LCS this season. So he had a combined 8-0-11 last week. Adding to that, very impressive score from him. And on this Graves, this game, it's been a little bit more about the entire team, but Forgiven really has stood out since his debut with SK.
Yeah, he's actually building a Black Cleaver here in Graves, so go full armor penetration. Wants these spells to hurt as much as possible, and also knowing that he has to deal with the Jarvan and the Gnar in these fights. He will jump in his face. He's getting all the armor penetration. I haven't seen the Black Cleaver on a Graves in a very, very long time.
Yeah, a bit of an interesting build coming out for him, but so far he's making it work.
So seeing as Zed won't really be diving the Corki due to the QSS, he will also benefit from the penetration due to the Black Cleaver. And therefore kind of setting up just for SK and Rek'Sai as well, obviously, with their physical damage. So a lot of members here benefiting from the armor shred coming in of a Black Cleaver. And you just want to kill that Gnar and Jarvan as fast as possible, and the fight is basically over. Yeah,
it's kind of funny how the way that they can make these sustained fights out of the fact that they have, 2 assassins each in the mid lane, and what would be so much massive 100-0 chunk potential if it had gotten rolling for Gambit is really just falling by the wayside. So it's becoming who can out-sustain who.
Yeah, and that's been in favor of SK. I mean, they have the disengage from the Lulu. Gambit does not have anything to actually stop a fight from happening. And we've just seen SK. They're waiting for Baron to spawn. They're waiting for Dragon to spawn. They don't have to make any plays before they're there, and they get both of the buffs.
So what does Gambit need to do, not just to come back into this game, but to really thunder back in? It's a really long climb for them at this point. They're down so much gold. They haven't got a Dragon. They haven't got a Baron. They barely got picks. What do they need to do to come back into this? Because no one wants to start 0-3.
No, I mean, in this game itself, you just have to try and look for a lucky pick or a mistake from SK. So if SK is going for Baron now, your best shot might just be go and try and fight them. While they're doing the Baron and paying attention to it, you take a 5 versus 5, you have a Leona ulti in a Baron pit, and you try and see if you can actually kill someone, stop them from taking this Baron here. Otherwise, you're going to lose anyway when these buffs gets picked up by SK.
And it's supreme confidence here from SK starting off this Baron you saw Forgiven a moment ago, chunking Diamond down. Edward already a little bit as well, trying to force them away, and this Baron is going to go down pretty quickly, but Cabochard's jumping in. There we go, Freddy with the Frozen Tomb. That is just so much damage. Fox now, however, is going to get massive double kill, picked up on both those 2 big guys right there.
Yeah.
3 for none, back to Baron, boys, and everyone left on Gambit is smarting.
You have to give it a try, honestly, for Gambit here. Managed to land some decent poke, but then the all-in just coming from SK, who are so far ahead, making it impossible for Gambit to do anything.
Very, very difficult at the very least. So 6 towers to do. Looks like it might be 7 in just a moment. It's only the inhibitor turrets remaining, and SK Gaming looking to push down this top side. Svenskeren leading the charge Actually going to move down a little bit, see if they can out-juke. Dragon is live now. So we'll see. Oh, but they're not interested in that one. Svenskeren going in on Eddie, and they blow him up for Given, adding to his score. 406 now. This should be a very easy inhibitor, and they don't even need Freddy involved in it. Just 4 members right here. Diamond gonna look for the jump on Forgiven. He's around the back. He's way too safe right now, and Diamond is gonna go down. They've got even more. Maybe they can push this one in, but they're going to feel it out and back away from that. Waves pushing in their favor in the middle, and they've still got the Baron buff to shove these mini-minions back on the top side.
Yeah, 12 seconds on Eddie here, so only 3 guys from Gambit trying to defend. I don't think it's going to be enough here. SK Gaming, once again, looking so strong.
Now slow march to victory, and they use the Lulu ultimate as well. Freddy just going to keep him not even safe on Fountain. There is the Nexus getting chunked down, and that is going to be GG. SK start the season 3-0.
Yeah, not much to do from Gambit in this game here. From the lane swap going heavily in favor of SK Gaming, to the comp from Gambit not being able to use the mid-game spike at all. And suddenly you don't have the damage to kill anyone, you don't have the ward control to kill them. And honestly, SK Gaming as a team, they are so good at moving between the lanes, knowing exactly where to push and when, and then get these objectives. They got every single dragon again, didn't give up a single one to Gambit.
Absolutely, so on that, they've got, what, 13 out of 14 possible Drakes across 3 games. Superb Baron control. The zoning from Freddy was absolutely insane. That's why they're favoring this Lissandra. He didn't just play Lissandra, he rocked it. He made that champion look good.
Oh yeah, I mean, great performance all around from everyone for SK Gaming. And again, Gambit is a little bit too passive for them. You need to be able to create some picks through better warding than what SK will do. That's how you can beat them. And Gambit didn't manage to do it. Again, to passive warding. Again, the QSS on Pinoy, I think you can argue back and forth. Is it worth it to get it as a second item? Lose out again on some of your damage, or a lot of damage in the mid game, just to try and stay alive in these team fights here, because there was no peel for him. Again, he was all on his own. It's just a very tough situation for him as an AD carry as well.
Very, very hard. I feel like all of Gambit, or at least very much most of them, were not quite understanding the situation that was at hand. They weren't in sync with what their comp was built to do. When they didn't get picks initially, they decided to just sit back, let the game pace be dictated to them, and they got left in the dust by SK. It was still a slower march to victory, 37.5, maybe 38 minutes into that game, but they weren't able to come up with really much of anything in that one. And you know, in those situations, a team like SK with the